My name is Dr. North, Chuck North. I'm an economics professor for 32 more days. I will be the department chair in the economics. I have been for the past 5 years and 11 months. 6 years is enough, so at the end of July I will end my term there. I'm also an associate director of the Business Fellows program. So I will be moving from the third floor, where I've had my department office, down to the first floor of the Business Fellows suite, which is just out this hallway as you leave the building that direction. Business Fellows program is a way to get a BBA degree. So first and foremost, it is a major. And that major consists of courses that are that perform the same function as the business core in the BBA degree. So in the BBA degree, there's 50 hours of classes that you have to take that are just part of every business student takes these classes. As you'll see in a minute, we have pared that down to about 60% of those hours, to 31 hours. You still have to get the introductory classes in several disciplines, but that is the major that you get, and you receive ultimately a business administration, a BBA degree. Now, the difference between Business Fellows and the traditional BBA, and even the new Hand-Camera Scholars program that just got started, is that most everything else in the catalog, that is, do 2 of these and 3 of those and a couple of the English classes and these and that, those requirements are just gone. And we have much more flexible degree requirements in their place. So the idea is you're going to end up substituting more advanced classes for those traditional general education requirements. We normally take around 60 students per year. Ability is pretty high, so test scores and high school performance need to be very strong to be admitted as freshmen. We also will look at students who apply at the end of their first semester. So if you, and I'll talk more about how to get into this position. But if you'll take a good solid schedule your first semester and do well with that schedule, then you also can be a strong candidate for the program. Right now we've got 37 students admitted, so we're a little bit smaller than normal. We're not quite sure why. We'll see how it goes, but our total, including the incoming freshmen, are 226 students in the program right now. So you can see that that's roughly 60 or so students on average, with the current class being a little bit smaller than normal. The program was started in 2007, and since the very first class graduated in 2008 with 2 whole students, we now have a total of 646 students who've graduated from this program. And I'll give you some examples pretty soon of what they do with this major. So the best way that we've been able to explain how the major works is with this diagram. So since everybody's looking this way, I'll point it this way. You can think of each one of these squares as one course you will take in college. So as you sit here right now, incoming freshman, your mindset is probably in the, man, 4 years of college, there's so much ahead of me, and I, can't even start thinking about what's going on. But having been at Baylor for 23 years and being, a professor, I think of it differently. I think of it as most students take 5 academic classes each semester, and they're here for 8 semesters. So that means, you have to throw in some PE classes, or you're in the marching band, or you take a choir or something. But that really means that you basically have 40 classes that you will take during college if you're a standard student taking standard course loads. We expect most business fellows will take about 40 classes as well. And so the way that we think of it is every single class you're taking is 2.5% of your college education. And we want every one of those 2.5% to count. And count in the sense that they're serving a purpose for you. So your purpose might be starting off and thinking, I want to be pre-med and do that with business. And then you take your first biology and your first chemistry class, you make A's in them both, and you're like, I do not want to go to medical school. Okay, so you'll drop, you won't continue with the sciences necessarily, but you will have just, those classes aren't wasted in the sense that you learn something about yourself. First off, you learn some biology and some chemistry, but then you also learn that I don't really want to do that. So it's not that you won't ever take classes that won't end up not, counting toward the thing I really want, but you'll learn more about yourself as you do that. You can change your mind, you can dip your toe, and be a little bit more experimental. So 40 classes. There are 40 squares up here. And so the first requirement that I just mentioned a while ago is 31 credits, 31 semester hours of business. That is 1/4 of the number of hours required to get a degree at Baylor. You have to get 124 hours. And so that is your business fellows major. It's roughly 10 classes plus that little spare 1 hour floating around that we have some ideas about. But you take 10 classes and you've got to take at least one from each of the main subject areas in the business school. So rather than being given a list of all of the classes you have to take, you got to take at least one accounting. Most students take two. You got to take the specific introduction to corporate finance class that finance, accounting, and economics majors take. We've consolidated the 2-semester principles of economics sequence into a single semester course. So you take that. If you've got credit for macroeconomics but not micro and you're in business fellows, you would take that class anyway. If you got micro credit, we work out something else. At least one management class, at least one marketing class, but you've got some freedom and flexibility in which one you take. At least one MIS class, which can be the very first business 1350 class that all of the business majors take, and many of our students do that. But if you're really good at Excel or you have a lot of background experience, you can have that be a higher level MIS class in its place. Or you can even do it as a computer science class. You got to take something law related. The majority of our students take business law, but there are some other options as well. And then you got those, last few are electives that you have to do, one of which is usually accounting, the second accounting class. So that is your first major, business fellows major. This is one of the big differences then between business fellows and the traditional BBA degree. You have to do 64 hours outside the business school. Okay, what you would have seen this morning in the BBA session is not that many hours outside the business school. But the difference is, every one of these gray boxes is whatever class you would like to take. You must, of these 64 hours, take the 2 religion classes. You must take Calculus 1, and you need a statistics class. Statistics can be done several ways depending on how much math you do. But, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that, but that's all that is specified outside the business school. And then you can choose which other things you want to mix in with it. If you have some AP credit that you're bringing in most of the time, except for like macroeconomics or micro, those usually tend to be non-business classes. So those would satisfy some of these boxes, and instead of you'd have courses already satisfying that, you would just add that number of classes to the anywhere in the university box. You take them in the business school or out. And so what most students end up doing then is this block of courses that can be taken anywhere is usually enough to get most of 2 business majors done. So a typical business fellow would have their fellows major, use this amount of time to get something like an accounting and a finance major, which combined would be 33 hours, so 11 classes. And then they would use these to do something else. Most common thing they do is math, but other things that are really common are major or minor in political science, or history, or religion, or any subject that you're interested in, just because you like it, right? Or because you have some sort of goal that would help you taking more sciences, or whatever it is that you like, right? And that's the difference, is that rather than this sort of very broad, but fairly thin general education degree that you get if you follow the traditional plan, you're going to sacrifice some of the breadth for a few specific subjects and go much deeper in that handful of subjects outside the business school. So this is ideal for somebody who has an interest beyond the business school as well as business and wants to combine them both in ways that generally don't fit within the traditional degree program. So the biggest advantage is flexibility. It's great for people who want to be pre-med or pre-law. It's great if you just want to do something else beyond business. Here are a couple of people. This person went to dental school with a business fellows major and an accounting major and a biology major. This person ended up going to get a PhD in statistics. Fellows, math major, French minor, finance major. I know he got a French major. He got a French major because he actually studied abroad in France for a semester and took 15 hours of French classes. He also met this very lovely young woman from Japan who spoke no English, and he spoke no Japanese, but they both were trying to learn French, so their French got really good. Trying to be able to flirt and communicate with each other. They're now married. So yeah, these are real people. Here's some more examples of real people. You can see that it's pretty heavy on accounting, economics, finance. That's largely because the way that we screen our applicants tends to select on math skills. And people who are good at math skills tend to move into finance and economics and accounting. Though accounting is probably the least mathy, even though it's got numbers, right? They're not doing math in the same way that econ and finance are. So like econ's the most, and then finance, then accounting. In fact, marketing may have more actual math than accounting does. Accounting, for function math in a computer, you have to put the numbers in the right place or you go to jail. So you can see that there's a lot of accounting and finance and then some double majors and things like that. Here's a person who got, where is it? Here, 5 majors. First business fellow to do 5 majors. She has fellows, economics, risk management, and insurance, and then a German major and a history major. She was elected to Phi Beta Kappa, which I don't know if you know what that is. That is the National Honor Society in the Arts and Sciences. So with a BBA degree, but a German and a history major, she was actually able to be inducted into both the Business School Honor Society and the most prestigious National Arts and Sciences Society as well. We've had a number of others who've also been in that boat, often because they're able to get a biology major or a math major or something like that. But you come down here, and it's a smaller number of people, but you can see here's somebody who got a degree in public relations, a major in public relations and a minor in religion. So they didn't actually do another business major. All right, they got the fellows concentration, but then they really did stuff outside. A couple of management majors with biochem, so this person went to medical school, management and history, management with minors in religion and Spanish, marketing and supply chain, and biology, right? So I mean, all of these kinds of things can be done. So what is the benefit of doing fellows? That list right there. Every business fellow is a little bit different. Now, a lot of them have some of the same thing, like finance, economics, maybe finance and accounting, mix in a little bit of something else. But that's what the program does for you. And you just can't do some of these things if you're not in the fellows program. The others, it just takes too many hours, too many years. You can't do it in 8 semesters. Every one of these was 8 semesters. We have some additional requirements that you just need to be aware of that are not part of the traditional BBA, and they're not part of the hand camera scholars either. One of the things that we want to make sure is that people don't come and use the flexibility of business fellows to like blow off school, because it's really first and foremost supposed to be one of our more premier academic programs in the business school. One way we do that is everybody's got to get to the 4th semester in one of these subjects: math, science, engineering, computer science, or foreign language. Notice that I said you have to reach the 4th semester. Not that you have to take 4 semesters of courses. So what does that mean? If you're in foreign language and you took AP Spanish and you got a 5 on your AP Spanish test, you would get credit for the 3rd and 4th semester of Spanish, and you're done. You've already met this walking in the door to Baylor. If you're not quite that gifted in Spanish, you took 3 years in high school and you go take the placement test and you place into the 2nd semester course. You take number 2, number 3, and number 4. And you take 3 semesters of Spanish to get you to the 4th semester class. In math, that typically means start with Calculus 1, which many people will have AP credit for. Cal 2, a statistics class that has a Calculus 2 prerequisite, so that gets you that stats class that was up there on that first slide. There's 3 of your 4. 4th class is usually either Calculus 3 or linear algebra. There's this kind of 3 courses that you can divert to after Cal 2 and take 2 of those 3 basically. One of them should be stats because it also satisfies our expectation to do stats. That's what 4 semesters of math looks like. And similar in science, if you're pre-med, you do 2 semesters of bio, 2 semesters of chemistry. We'll count the 2 subjects together as 4 semesters. So that's basically what we mean by fourth semester, but everyone's got to do it in at least one subject. There are actually a number of students that will do, 4 semesters of language, and then they'll go on with lots more math or lots more science or whatever. So it's common for students to do more than just the 2, but it's not required. The other thing that's required is a capstone experience. When we created the program, our first inclination as a bunch of pointy-headed academics was that you should have to write a thesis. Because what a thesis does is it forces you to pull together a bunch of ideas and thoughts that you haven't really put together that way before, to integrate multiple subjects or at least multiple classes within your major, think about them in great detail, and consolidate it all into a coherent stream of thought. But it teaches you to write a very specific type of paper. It teaches you to write an academic paper that is in the style of what we would send to a journal. And most of you are probably not someday going to be a professor trying to submit papers to a journal. And then we did a little bit of math in our head, which was we have about 150, 160 faculty in the business school and about 60 business fellows a year. And that's a lot of theses to have to supervise. And we didn't really think we had the capability. So we said, you know what? The thing about it is we have these other programs that are already in the school. Anybody can do them. Like if you guys aren't in business fellows, you can still do them, right? The BEST program and the management consulting course are both kind of a consulting type class that you apply for and get accepted to, and then you provide consulting services of various sorts to clients of various sorts. The investment practicums are managing money that is Baylor's endowment money. You have a little tiny piece of it. The large cap portfolio has been around for about 30 years now and is up to about $11 million in portfolio. Small cap is still in the 6 figures because it's about 3 or 4 years old. They both give you hands-on investing experience. Again, all you really need is to make sure you've done the finance prerequisites to do it. You don't have to be in fellows to do it. But if you do those programs, it satisfies this capstone requirement for fellows. Angel Network is venture capital matching. The Intro to Philanthropy is actually outside the business school. But it is one where you begin the first half of the semester learning about the process of philanthropy from the recipient side. So you meet with charities in the Waco area, you find out what their needs are, you learn how to write a grant. They probably teach you, not so much you. And then all of the groups that you've worked with to submit grants come in and you sort of change hats and become the donors, because they've got about $50,000 a semester to actually give out, and it's your responsibility to decide. What all of these things have in common, if it's not a thesis, is there's some kind of real money at stake. There's some kind of actual problem that's needing to be solved. So somewhat, many of them are selective in their membership. We don't have any control over that. And they're great opportunities to learn some real hands-on experience. Like I said, you don't have to be in business fellows to do these, but if you do these and you're in business fellows, one of them will count as your capstone experience. Now, the basic story then of business fellows is that as a freshman, you come in and you take a course load that is more challenging than most freshmen take. It's pretty comparable actually to what many of the Hankamer scholars would take. So at a minimum, you'd probably be doing your accounting and economics classes, you'll be doing math or whatever your level 4 is going to be, and then you'll pick up a couple of extra classes beyond that. And that's your freshman year. And other freshmen will tell you their schedules and you're going to be thinking, man, your classes are so easy. That's not fair. But what you're realizing is that you're sort of knocking out the classes that are necessary so that your sophomore year you can start into what are normally junior level business classes and start exploring majors right away. So that by the time you're thinking about internships after your junior year, you've already taken at least half of your major. And so most business fellows then would think of their time through the sequence as being freshman year, I had a hard freshman year. Sophomore year, I was basically a junior. And then my junior and senior years were 2 senior years back to back, which is why I got all those stinking majors that were up on the screen earlier, right? That's how it works. And so you probably start thinking, especially parents, like, is my kid ever going to be able to do anything fun in college if they're in this program? So that's what this slide is about. The reality of students that we accept into fellows is that if all they did were take 15 hours and study for those classes and make solid 4.0 GPA, and otherwise hang out in their dorm rooms and go to the cafeteria for lunch and dinner. Be bored out of their mind. Just not enough to do, right? The classes aren't hard enough to keep them occupied 24/7. So they're going to look for ways to fix their boredom. And so the way that most business fellows fix their boredom is they get involved in extracurricular activities just like many other college students do. So this is a set of things. It's not a complete list, but these are all things that students in our Business Fellows program have done over time. From clubs like the Ballroom Dance Society or the Osa Logos, which is an apologetics Bible study kind of group that was founded, to honor societies like Mortarboard or language and math clubs, and being in the marching band or various choirs. Right? We even had someone in the riding associations. She took care of the horses for the Baylor Riding Association. To Greek life. So that's like one line for, 9 sororities and 18 fraternities or something. So lots and lots of students have been in Greek life. They tend in all of these things to rise up into leadership in those clubs because they're the sorts of kids that just people choose as leaders. You can see student government here, student foundation, which is another selective group on campus. What else can I point out? Club sports. So let's say you love sports and you love playing sports, but you're not so good that you could actually be in varsity in one of Baylor's Division I, Big 12 level competitions. But you're a good golfer, you're a good tennis player or something, and you just like to keep on doing that competitively, right? We have club sports that you can do that in, and we did actually have 3 different groups. The swim team, the golf team, were both started by business fellows, and then I'm going to have to confess, we were apparently complicit in the creation of a Quidditch team. So we were at least involved with that. We've had a number of business fellows do the Dream Team, which is actually women's basketball, women's soccer, and maybe even tennis, have boys that they compete against. And the coaches like business fellows for this because, number one, you show up on time and you show up consistently. Number 2, you understand that you're not supposed to hurt the star athletes when you're practicing against them. Your job is to help them get better against more sort of forceful competition. And number 3, they're generally pretty good athletes. And what that means is you could conceivably end up being on the women's national championship basketball team, which has happened. The guy that practiced against Brittany Griner when she was here back in 2012 and 2013 was a 6'9" business fellow who was, that was her practice opposition. And so even those kinds of things are possible. In addition to all of those activities, we strongly encourage study abroad. I'd say about half, and this is a very rough estimate, but I'm guessing about half of students and business fellows will study abroad, at least in a normal environment when Baylor is letting people study abroad, which we haven't done since summer 2019, or fall 2019. Tends to be Eurocentric where our students have gone, with a smattering of other places. The biggest other smattering would be Latin America. These are typically language-based. Many of the ones on continental Europe are language-based as well. You can do this for a summer, you can do it for a semester, and we're very good at sort of helping you figure out which of those things will work. And one of the nice things about all that flexibility in business fellows is that you have to worry less than most students about, does the place I want to go have the classes I need in order to graduate? Because about the worst that's going to happen is, well, maybe I won't get that extra political science class that'll let me get a poli-sci minor, but I got to spend a semester in Spain. So that was much better, right? So those are the kinds of things that you can do with study abroad. Also, we've had tons of students go on mission trips. We're now at 25 countries all around the world. The shift tends to be toward the global south here for mission trips, away from Europe, though there still are some Europe. And of course, here in the good old US of A, still a mission field for our students. Can they get jobs? Is this something employers have heard of? So these are a couple of years old statistics because we just didn't feel like updating the presentation. But so class of 2018 and 19, we had a total of 101 students graduate in those 2 years. Of those 101, 13 went into accounting, 15 into consulting, 20 plus 7 into finance, banking, and investment banking. So you can see we're still really pushing toward those quantitative business fields. But we had a human resource major and several go into IT. We had 11 others, which is going to capture marketing and other kinds of majors, supply chain and so on. And then we had a very low number for most cohorts. Only 4 out of those 2 classes went to law school. 19 went to medical school, which is also a little bit below our historic average. But you can see that, you know, about 30% go to graduate school. The rest of them got jobs. No one was really unemployed. So yeah, they can get jobs, and they're usually pretty good jobs. Our starting salary averages for fellows are higher than the other majors in the school. Occasionally when MIS is really, really hopping, the MIS majors will start at a higher salary than the business fellows. But I would argue as an economist that most business fellows' trajectory over time is like this for income, and the MIS would be more like that. So your finance class will teach you what that means. For graduate school, students tend to stay pretty heavily here in Texas, but you can see some hot spots all around the country. In the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, up in New York, Boston, Chicago, Memphis apparently, and then some California schools as well. So we place people all around the country in graduate schools. Here are specific graduate schools that we have sent students to. In law, we've gone to several of the top 5. Lots more in the top 14. I don't know that we've had anybody apply to Cornell or places like that, but you know, this is where they have gone. PhDs at multiple universities, including some very prestigious. We've had medical schools, including all of the major medical schools in Texas, including the top 2, Mount Sinai, Yale, Vanderbilt, and on and on and on and on and on. Someone from Illinois, someone from Oklahoma, someone from Arkansas, someone from Nebraska, right? They go back to their home state, go to medical schools there. So we have lots of success with medical schools. A variety of other professional schools as well. Remember, this is a third of that group that I showed you a minute ago. The other 2/3 went into jobs. All 3 Texas dental schools, if you want to be a dentist, which is actually not a bad job, apparently. I don't know that I want my hands in someone's mouth all the time, but occupational satisfaction is very high among dentists because they sort of get them. Think about all of those hygienists doing all that work that's being billed for, and how long is a dentist in the room with you? 5 minutes, then they move on, right? Think about the revenue click. Employment, we've placed at many of the top consulting firms. Accounting, all of the top 4, all the big 4 accounting firms, plus a number of industry firms. Banking and finance, we placed at in your investment banks, commercial banks, a variety of other kind of private equity and similar kinds of firms. So all aspects of finance are possible in this program, and just generally at Baylor. A number have gone into not insurance sales, but actually going to work for the major insurance corporations, or brokering specialty lines insurance for these 2. Nonprofit stuff, whole bunch of other random places, right? So we've had lots of people do lots of things in lots of places. Jobs are all very good. So can my kid get a job if they do this? Yes, because one of the benefits is, I don't know if they're going to know what business fellows is. Well, they will, but they also know what finance is. They also know what math is. They also know what Spanish is, right? So those things are all on your transcript and on your resume. This is a good overview, both historically, so almost all the way back to the beginning, and then of the current freshman class. So historically, remember they changed the measurements for the SAT partway through that, but our SAT medians tend to be in the low 1400s, 32 to 33 this year on our ACTs. So we normally are looking for at least a 32 on the ACT and about a 1410, 1420 on the current SAT for incoming freshmen. We also look at your high school transcript. We want to see if your high school ranks. Then we're looking for like top 5% of the high school class. If your high school doesn't rank, we're looking very closely at what your grades are and at least making some inference about your performance. All of the reason we want to do that is because we're trying to figure out if you're going to do a little bit harder than normal schedule, right? How are you going to do on that? I'll come back to that idea. Historically, we've been about 50-50 male-female. We're a couple more boys than girls this year. Business school at Baylor is usually about 60% male, 40% female. University as a whole is flipped. 60% female, 40% male. We're sort of smack in the middle. Pretty evenly weighted. Not because we're trying for even weights, just because those are who applies and ought to be in the program. This year we're actually surprisingly high out of state. We're 33% historically. Over the past 5 cohorts or so, it's been about 40% have been from out of state. This year we're half and half. About 1 out of every 6 in our current class are in honors. Historically, almost a third have started in the honors program. Probably about half have finished by actually writing a thesis. 25% have been pre-med. That's pretty consistent right now. Pre-law is about 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. So those are the main graduate schools. We've had a number who will go get a job, work for several years, and then they've gone back to MBA programs. And what we generally encourage for that kind of student is, apply for the moon, right? So we've had students go to Chicago, Stanford, Kellogg at Northwestern. I don't think we've had Wharton yet. We'll have to nudge people for that. So we're getting placed from the kinds of jobs these students are doing on into high-level MBA programs as well, which normally takes some work experience before you can get in there. So you're getting into the kind of job that can get you into the kind of school that can then do whatever an MBA is going to do for you. Okay, if I have you sold, then this is how you would apply. It's a little bit tricky right now, but not very. So the first thing is you apply through our website. And it's this is your first test. Do I belong in Business Fellows? Can you remember that it's sort of the standard Baylor thing with /business/fellows? If you remember that, you're on your way. Like I said, we look at SAT and ACT scores and a high school transcript. Often we can get that information from admissions. We ask you to write an essay. The essay is basically, why will Business Fellows be good for my educational goals? I don't want you to tell me how many businesses you started and all. I don't care. This is an academic program, right? Business school can help you with all of I've started so many businesses, I don't need an education. That's great. It's wonderful. But I want to know if you're going to be able to make an A in accounting. So you need to write an essay about what your goals are. And so this is where you address the flexibility question, right? Why is it that being in a flexible program would be better for me than just doing the traditional degree plan? Submit a resume. A picture, we ask you to do a picture that, 1, makes your face visible, but 2, is something that you enjoy doing. It can just be your standard senior photos if you like. But like one guy submitted a picture of himself with his fencing garb, except he had the mask removed, so he's ready to fence you. So I'm not going to get into a sword fight with that guy. And then we see people playing various sports, we'll see people who are playing an instrument, we'll see people who are whatever they like to do. And then we see the usual sort of posed high school graduation photo. Submit a picture. 2 letters of recommendation, again, we can get those from admissions if you've already had them written by a teacher for you. And if you want to apply right now to get in for this fall, we will consider applications. Probably need to be fairly slam dunk on your metrics, okay, to be accepted right now. But what you do is go to our website, which still looks like this, which is our old template for the business school. And right there you can see there's an Apply Now button. You click on that Apply Now button, and it's going to give you 2 options. Apply as an incoming freshman, apply as a current student. So here's the tricky part. You guys, even though you're incoming freshmen, would apply as a current student, because we've turned off the incoming freshmen, because who's going to apply there is going to be next year's freshmen. We don't want them yet. So we've got incoming freshmen turned off. You can apply as current student, and then you'll just have to make sure that you supply either the 2 letters of recommendation or that you have them on file at Baylor already. Because the other stuff would be part of the application process for the current students. Now, what that's hinting at, though, is that if you're not quite a slam dunk, and the most common way that this happens is, I've got great grades in high school, I work really hard, I'm an excellent student, but either I couldn't take the SAT or ACT test because of the testing conditions, but maybe I've got some AP credits or something I can show you. Or maybe I have an SAT score, I just didn't do all that well on it compared to this, right? And if that's the case, then what you really ought to think about is applying not right now, but during the fall semester for admission in December and starting in the spring. And to do that, you would also, at the end of the first semester, send us an unofficial Baylor transcript once you've got your classes done. So, 2 ways to apply. One, it needs to be a fairly clear case that we would accept. The other, if it's a little bit ambiguous, is probably better to wait until during the first semester, and at the end of the first semester when you have your grades, we'll make a decision and notify you over the Christmas holiday. Okay? If you want to do that, then for this fall, you need to take a schedule that looks kind of like a business fellows schedule. But we also want to make sure that it makes sense for you given the rest of your goals. So, you should have at least 15 hours total, okay? That should include at least 3 classes that we consider to be somewhat more rigorous than the average class at Baylor. Here are examples of those. It's not a completely exhaustive list. Whatever math is appropriate for you, starting with Calculus 1. So if you've got your A/B Calculus credit and you're not going to retake Cal 1, then you take the next math class. Or if you get into fellows and you say, well, I'm not going to do more math, I'm going to do foreign language instead for my level 4. Then go ahead and take some foreign language, right? Whatever the next class is for you. Go ahead and take that. It does count toward the BBA degree if you meet certain levels of foreign language. If you don't have lab science credit already from one of your AP tests or dual credit or something like that, then take a lab science, except don't take the ones that are for non-majors, right? Just suck it up and duel it out with the pre-meds and prove that, like, if I want to go to medical school, I could. Take chemistry, take biology or something. Computer science, or if you're in the honors program, take one of their first year seminars. Take one of the econ classes. I'm the chair of the economics department for 32 more days. I have power. I can enter permission for you to take any economics class, just like that. Accounting, you're not going to get into unless you get into the Hand-Camera Scholars Program. And if you're really seriously thinking about business fellows, then I would encourage you, if you haven't really thought about Hand-Camera Scholars, but you have the academic background for it, go ahead and think about applying for that right now. Because it would let you take economics, accounting, and one of these other things. That would be 3. Then a couple of other classes like the religion class, speech, English, something else that's more normal freshman class. And work with your advisor on that. But if you haven't thought about it, the Hand-Camera Scholars Program gets you many of the benefits of business fellows, especially the business school benefits. It gets you immediately admitted to the business school. It gets you the acceleration of your classes so that next year in sophomore, you can take those same business classes that the fellows can. The difference is business fellows is about the rest of the campus and mixing in all of those other subjects. If what you really want is just an accelerated advanced business degree that pretty heavily concentrates in business, Hand-Camera Scholars is probably for you. Not quite as high admission standards, but we had 3 students turn us down to be in Hand-Camera Scholars. So it's overlapping distributions. It's going to be a very good set of students. It's going to develop a similar kind of reputation among employers to what we have. And you guys could be sort of the vanguard of that if you wanted to do that. And it gives you the opportunity to then apply to fellows at the end of the semester if you want, so that you either stay in the Hand-Camera Scholars Program or you could join Business Fellows.